Oh, how you guys doing? Uh, we're trying to figure out the some of the recent things that have been a lot of fun. I recently read that all shipments of any kind to the United States are being suspended until they work out the whole thing with the tariffs. We got a lot of watches coming from the U. I mean, coming to the U.S. from Switzerland. And so the only thing I could think of doing is flying over there, getting our watches, bringing them home, and that's that. that would be that would be my only solution to all of this craziness that's happening right now. So anyhow, what else is going on in the watch world? Well, let's see. Without getting new shipments, watches in the U.S., Swiss watches in the U.S., which is, I think, the great bulk of our watches that watch collectors have are, I don't know what's going to happen with them. A lot of the retail businesses, jewelers and stuff that handle watches are probably in a heap of trouble. So I don't know what this whole thing. It's like somebody had read World Economics for Dummies and applied it, and we're, we're, I don't. It's getting. If I didn't laugh about it, I'd be screaming. Anyway, I get some other things. Hi, Brian. Good morning to you. How many watches can someone bring back from Switzerland? Is is it less than? No, you can bring back as many as you want. I think it's something on the. I think, um, because I know that we if we hired a courier would pick up our watches, hop on a plane, and come back. But I was looking at the prices. I found a cheap flight where I think you have to sit on the wing, and it's it's sort of nutty. But it might be actually cheaper if I simply flew over there, got a round trip ticket. I don't know, spent a couple nights and lived it up and then came back. I don't know. I didn't. I thought you could bring as many as you wanted. I didn't hear anything about 10,000 Swiss francs or $10,000 worth. You know what what I would be doing is getting a whole bunch of watches that were repaired. So it's sort of like these are watches that were here in the U.S. and then I've got to go and pick them up and bring them home. Man, I tell you, this light. I'm gonna hang on. Let me see. I have a very sophisticated lighting system with my curtain. Let me see if that'll help. Yeah. Oh, that's much better, I think. Okay. Hey, Killer, how you doing? Tuned in for an interesting topic. What time we're living in? Yeah, I know. Oh, hey, Goldfinger, good to see you guys. Um, so what would you guys like to talk about? Here I am ranting about. I mean, when they cut off all shipment, I mean, it wasn't just what shipment, but it's like all shipment. I imagine, some of these big companies will simply send a courier over with them since they're not having shipping. That would be my guess. Um, and so, you know, I was just reading a thing too that according to customs, there was some regulation that somebody sent me out of customs. And if you're bringing back a repaired watch, there's no charges on it. So that was a good thing. Hey, Fernie, good to see you. Um, so, I mean, the watches that are in the United States for sale, that's what I'm wondering about. Um, First of all, people who buy a watch here and are being shipped elsewhere, but those being shipped within the United States to people who are in the United States without the shipment can take place without any tariff. There will be taxes, possibly two taxes, the shipping state and the receiving state. I don't know. We'll see. But all kinds of, I mean, it's just sort of wild. I With the tariffs, we didn't want to ship anything to the U.S. while the tariffs were at 39%. And so, we've been sort of mulling around waiting for putting the repairs for the U.S. ones on the back burner so that by the time they're ready to ship, the tariffs will be taken care of. So that's that. Hi, HRM. How you doing? Technically, you have to declare anything above 150, no limit on how much. Okay. Yeah, that's sort of, you know, I'm afraid to wear more than one watch. When I went to Switzerland, actually the last two times I went this last year and then earlier this year, one was simply on to hop on a boat and go down the Rhine River to Amsterdam. And the other time, though, I was there for the GPHG Awards. And for lots of reasons, I won't be going there this year for the GPHG. But if something comes up and I've got to go get the watches, that might not be a bad idea to time it with the GPHG. I don't know. The GPHG is very crowded and stuff, but I like to see some people I met over there, the guys at Agenoir and our designer, and they're having some new digs they're moving to and stuff like that. Wear the watch on the plane, ship the boxes and papers in a package. Don't declare anything. Probably right. Here's the thing about that, though, HRM, is that, believe me, I think the people who are in charge of smuggling are a little more sophisticated than we are. I have no experience smuggling. Years ago, a long time ago, when I was quite young, my wife and I had gone to we'd done one of these tours that, when you're young, you can just run all over Europe and, live on a backpack and sleep on the train. And anyway, we went to, I think it was Amsterdam, and they had some tour that we went to this diamond place. And so I got these little diamonds that were perfect diamonds, but they were, they could be used for a phonograph needle. They were so small, but I was very proud of my diamonds. So I'm going through customs and, here we are, a couple of young kids, and it was hippie looking almost. And so the custom person said, "Do you have anything to clear?" I said, "Yeah, I got diamonds." Her eyes lit up, and I showed her my diamonds, and she almost threw them at me like, "Touch, these don't count. Get out of here." So there's always that, go. I think I'll take, smuggle my Casio G-Shock. Look what I got. Yeah. They're not even from Switzerland. Oh man. Hi, Brian. How you doing? Is Watches and Wonders worth the trip, or is it overrated? I don't know. I don't know at all. I, it's sort of like if you go to too many museums at the same time. Years ago, we were in Florence, and I went to the one art museum after another, and, they could have had the actual Mona Lisa stand up and say hello. I wouldn't have noticed it. Actually, the Mona Lisa, I guess, is in Paris and not Italy, but that's another story. So the going to those big watch shows, I don't know. Watches and Wonders, that may be a great thing to go and look at them all. A lot of people just love them. I think they're also used for dealers and sellers, so that's another thing. But someone said, "Hey, let's go," I'd probably be all for it. It didn't require too much effort on my part. But it's not something that, you get, because I see people go for days and they just look at this, looking at watches. I go to watch time show. Now that's just right because there's enough there that you really get to see all of the new watches and everything. It's going to be in November in New York at the Gotham Hall. It's a great place to have them. And so I'm going to that. Tell you something really funny that happened. I'm going to go. My wife and I are going to New York to visit. My son's coming out from California for a visit, coming to New York next month. So my wife called up, get some hotel reservations. We can either do that or stay with the kids. Two of our other kids live in Queens, but getting from Queens down to Manhattan is sort of a hassle. Um, there's a train there and so forth, so you can Uber. But uh, what what I found out is that like rooms at sort of a medium price, nice hotel were about $900 a night. What is, wait a minute, we're not staying at the Ritz. But then in October, when we're going to the show, they're down to what we usually pay is like 300 or 400 a night, something like that. Not cheap, but not crazy either. So that's another thing. We're in very interesting times, I've got to say. I think there's some big sports events happening, the tennis or something like that, that's happening next month, and so it's going to be really crowded. So stay with the kids, and you know. So anyway, Brian, to answer your question, I've never been to that. Some people love it. It would probably be like I said, me. If I go to a museum, I get bored pretty easily after I see 200. Having said that, I am going to be going to the MoMA, Museum of Modern Art, the next time I visit New York next month. So don't listen to me. I don't know anything. HRM, Zenith Fusee and chain pieces are becoming real deals. There is one listed for 27,000 euro, originally 73. A lot of these things is sort of they go from ridiculously high to high that I can't afford anyway. And I might add that thank I do appreciate those kinds of things though, because it may come lower, but that's something. What's going on? Why would that lower go from 73 to 27? The reason I asked that, HRM, is that was how I got my Ovale, because it went from almost exactly the same price. Actually, the MSRP was 50. There were two of them. One was 110,000 and one was 55,000. So I didn't realize that when I started looking for them, with the one with the pantographs and stuff. So what happened was that there was one day I was looking at one. It was 20 something thousand. I couldn't afford that either, and so I told Brandon at Horology by the Sea out in California. I said, "Hey, if you get one for X amount, let me know." That was something I could scrape enough together for. He says, "Okay," and so that was how I got it. So it did come down. So it's good to see that happen, but mine had to come down even below that. I'll tell you something else with Fusee and chain. I'm not crazy about them, to tell you the truth. They're a tad bulky, but if you really want one and you want an affordable one, there you can find a lot of them of pocket watches. They're they're going to be older, but still, that's another source of them. If you do ever visit Switzerland, keep in mind that every accommodation within Geneva city borders comes with a free public transport pass. Can take all trains. I didn't know that. Boy, HRM, that's a great tip, because when I went there, we weren't offered any kind of things like that. But it's good. Good to know. Geneva is known for high prices, and Switzerland in general. Tell you, spend some time in New York City and then go to Geneva, and it'll look like a bargain. that's that's all I gotta say. I'll wait for the price of the gold ones to come down. Man, I'll tell you, I don't know. With the economy that going away is now, I don't see gold coming down. I wish it would. Uh, I wish it'd come down a lot. I mean, at the beginning of this millennia, the new millennia, gold was around $200. That wasn't that long ago. And now it's over 2,000, I think. Just insane. Tim Masso recently showcased a super cool Tag Heuer tourbillon fusee and chain, only 13.5 millimeters thick. That's pretty good, HRM. You got, oh, okay. I don't know how you have that little pyramid with the chain around it. And when it comes undone, I don't know how they do that with being too thin unless they got a really squashed pyramid on it. Good God, Damon. It is over 2,000. Thank you. You have to ask for the hotel front desk from Public Transport Pass. They are meant to offer it when checking in, but usually don't. I tell you, we were so jet lagged when we got there in November. But that is a great tip, though. I like public transportation everywhere. I've gone on public transportation, you name it, and I hop on the metro in Paris, or they have a metro. I don't know what it's called in Madrid and all these other places. My wife. Oh no, we got to take a Uber or something. Gold is created from neutron star mergers. It is worth the price. Okay. All right. Hi, Jose. How you doing? Okay. Let's get serious. Let's get serious about watches. What I would really like to see, and fusee and chain certainly comes under this, is something for constant force. Tourbillon, every chance I get, I bring out my demonstration of tourbillon. Tourbillon is a delight for pocket watches, because if they stay like this, and so your movement gets moved around, so it doesn't become off-centered for one or the other. However, with a wristwatch, you're moving all over the place anyway. So, tourbillon is sort of like a nice thing to have, but I've got my tourbillon. The thing that always is mysterious to me is how the tourbillon, the escapement on a tourbillon connects up to the gear train on the main movement. But that's another story. I'll have to find another toy that shows how that happens. Scientists are recently able to artificially create gold atoms. Yeah, that's the alchemists are at work. Only single atoms so far. Just working it out one atom at a time. There's the other thing. There's all kinds of spooky stuff that they could do. There was a thing I was interested in, and I'd love to see this, is that they're able to shoot I see, not an electron, but I think a proton. Wait, what is it? Oh, no, a particle. They had the particle guns, and they could, these up here. No, back here. They shoot a particle from here to here. Now, all matter is made up of all of these particles. And if you can send a particle the same way you'd send like a telegraph or a telephone or even the internet through the air, if you can start sending particles and then more particles, pretty soon you're going to be not pretty soon, but eventually you get at a point where you can transport, something like like Star Trek, beam me up, Scotty. And that it not outside of the possibility. If you can do it with particles, maybe first of all they would get our watches shipped, like Scotty gets beamed up. That'd be sort of interesting. Yeah, yeah, HP, I agree. If gold is too expensive, there are always platinum watches. Yeah, you can get some cheap platinum watch. Those things, they're close behind. I think the price of gold is more of a reflection of inflation and the nervousness about currency, the stability of currency. So that I understand, but we're mere mortals. We're just watch collectors. Um, anyway, by the way, the reason that I wanted to have a Bollywood talk, not that we're going to sit here and dance. I don't even know how to dance India dance. I I really like one of my favorite movies ever was called The Son of a Pooh, which was an Indian movie. It was in black and white a long time ago, and I really liked it. It just was just wonderful movie. And and then I started watching some other Indian movies. And I swear to God, no matter what the movie is that at some point they break and they have the dancing. So I thought, well, maybe they got something there. I had to find out more about. So we'll have a Bollywood watch discussion. Also, too, I thought, well, it'd be sort of fun because in India, there's one time zone in India, and it's offset a half hour from GMT. Don't know why, but it is. Um, and the the half hour offset is I thought, well, why not offset everybody else? And so we had it at 10:30 today a.m. New York time, which would be 8 p.m. or 2200 hours India time. So anyway, that's how come I just thought, it's not fair that they everything has to be in a half hour. I don't know. That's another place I'd really like to visit. I like Indian food and I like so many things about India, but I've never been there. Just about every place else. I've been to Sri Lanka and missed it by that much. So, and also too, I have two really. I guess the Lube, the two, what are they called? Anyway, I have two watches. Actually, I have three. I broke one. With the double mainspring in parallel, and but they were from Tata. I guess they were made from Tata, but they said they were made in Switzerland, so I'm not quite sure how they do that. A lot of interesting stuff. Okay, doke. Let's see what's going on. We're talking about gold atoms. It was one of the largest watch manufacturers. It went defunct recently. Yeah, that's Tata own that. They're a great big holding company, I think, in India. But we have them here too. Okay, let's go back. Let's talk about constant force. I think to me, in mechanical watches, pure constant force without, adding a battery or some other kind of non-mechanical things are kinds of, I'll say, non-mechanical gizmos. So right now, Fusi and chain, okay, that's a constant force. Double barrels in parallel, that's a constant force. Repertoire égalité is a constant force. The Maltese cross is a constant force. What other mechanical constant forces can you think of other than those that are used in traditional watchmaking? I think one that we could count would be, I don't know if it would count or not, but it would be some kind of precision watchmaking. The more precise, the better the craft, the better. One of the things that I liked about low frequencies is that with low frequencies, you can have bigger balance wheels. And with bigger balance wheels, you have um, more, oh, what's the word? Um, come on, you guys, help me think of the word. What's the word for, the bigger the wheel, you have less what? What is that called? Inertia. Thank you, Damon. You have better inertia, and I was reading some things about that, and that was what they pointed out. And so that's another type of constant force, because on the other hand, you can have a little bitty balance wheel, and then a high. This is the kind of thing that Zenith seems to like. They like to have 5 hertz, but even 4 hertz. You can have generally a smaller balance wheel. And while you may lose inertia, you gain the frequency. So that's a kind of trade-off. Constant escapement. That's another one, Killer. Yeah. That is exactly another one. An interesting buckling mechanism. Is that with a constant escapement? Constant escapement is something I did look into and wasn't able to quite get it. So, I guess too, we could include George Daniels. What's that called? The George Daniels, that double escapement. What is that? What is double escapement called? Hi, Matthew. How you doing? I'd say Girard-Perregaux constant escapement, but that's cheating. Why? Why is constant escapement cheating, Matthew? From chapter torque limiting mechanism like Geneva stopwork. That's what I call the Maltese cross. Oh, mechanisms like Geneva stopwork. Yeah, that's what that is. What the Geneva stopwork is another name for the Maltese cross. Now, the reason I know that, I made a model of one. I don't know if you guys remember that. A long time ago, I put together a model of a Maltese cross with my wood and popsicle sticks. Very accurate. Hi, Isa. How you doing? Letter, Jose. Yeah. His stuff is good too. He's another one who I really like because of that. I have a letter watch with a cool, wow. Yeah. What a cool watch. I agree. But only where's for formal. Okay. I can see that. There's a company that Letter had where he made affordable watches, and I'm trying to think, it's called LED or something like that. But there is a source of his watches, but they have an ETA movement or something like that, or a Solita movement on the inside. BLU. Thank you, Damon. Good grief, Damon. You're the needed encyclopedia. Thank you. Exactly, BLU, and it stands for, is it Blue Letter? It has an unusual one, but that is another source of inexpensive watches by Letter. Oh, sorry, Matthew, I didn't know that. Yeah, why not a battery? Yeah, there's certain things so that yeah, I guess the constant escapement, does it have to be done with a silicon? Now, there's one that looks like sort of these double things like this that Ulysse Nardin has. And I imagine that they also might be with, what was it, Girard-Perregaux? Yeah. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Here we are doing our our Bollywood dance at the wrong time. Oh man. Um, what other? Can you think of anything else in constant force? Opus watches is the dream. Anything in platinum. Now, by Opus, are these the ones that Harry Winston used to make? That every year they'd have a new Opus. The very first one was, if you looked at it and you say, "Oh, boy, that looks familiar," it turns out to be an F.P. Journe Resonance watch, but it was in part of that Opus theory. Yeah, yeah. My Harry Winston is got the double retrograde by Jean-Marc Viderec. I think it was even before they had Agenor. He and Roger Dubuis were working for Harry Winston at the same time. This is well before it was bought by Swatch. I don't, does anybody know much about what happened with Harry Winston watches since it was bought by Swatch? I know of years ago, shortly after they had made the purchase, I was talking to a guy at Harry Winston. I went in to have a new band put on. And it took them a long time to do it. It turns out those bands are tricky to put on. Anyway, I was talking to him, and he said, well, what he heard was that from now on, all of the Harry Winston movements were going to be blank pawn. So whether they did that or not and what they did with them, I don't know. But all of the blank pawn then became these silicon things. By the way, I understand that Swatch is in big trouble. The only watches that seem to be doing any good right now are the original Swatch, the cheap ones that they had, the cheap and colorful and fun ones that they originally got, started moving with. And then they ended up buying all these other things, including Harry Winston. They paid almost $1 billion for Harry Winston, uh, you know, which is a lot. Oh yeah, they quit doing a new Opus. Yeah, they did. Have you heard of the Tag Heuer micro pendulum? It uses magnets to deliver constant force. No, I haven't heard. HP, is that the one years ago? Tag Heuer made a watch that won the Grand Prix. I mean, not an award, but the whole Grand Prix, GPHG. And so when I was looking for information about it, they made one watch just so they could win the GPHG, and they did. But it was like, what? But I haven't heard about one that's using the micro pendulum. You know what? Carol Forstays Kasapi, the gal who was the head of Cartier uh, movements for a number of years and made all these fantastic movements, and then won a GPHG award, I think, in 2012 for the Watchmaker of the Year. It's really a remarkable watchmaker. Then she was hired by Tag Heuer, and the last I heard was she's working on something with carbon springs. Okay, oh boy, but she may have been doing something with magnets because she's like super talented, and so it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, killer. If you take a watch, here you've got this cheap, fun watch, and then you have something like Blank Pawn or Breguet. And who wants, no, we're going to put silicon in it and take away all of the tradition. We're going to take away all of the regulators that were developed over the years. What do they expect? I wouldn't pay that much for one of those. I mean, some of the guys I know who have, I think, are somewhat regret about it. Like, what do they get this for? And the thing, watches work perfectly well, but so does the quartz watch. In fact, quartz watch probably is more accurate. Or a smartwatch, will tell you when your mother-in-law is coming to town. It's just the kind of watches we have are just purely archaic mechanics. Yeah, I agree, Killer. Isa, well, if you ever need the tellurium and day of month complication by space one, I don't know. I've got a my equation of time watch. That's a really neat watch. I absolutely love, but equation of time. What do I care about solar time? I mean, no one's ever said, I want you there at 10 o'clock by solar time. So get out your sundial, make sure. There you go, Brian. We certainly try. You know, so far, if we have 1 out of 3, that'll be great. We'll see. The hard part is there's some people we're very angry with right now. I don't want to mention them, but we got to be angry with them, but say, okay, but vote for us. you know, we'll see what happens. Huh. Very interesting looking. Yeah, that does sound I remember that. I remember what you're talking about. I remember when I looked at it, I wasn't the the things that, and I think it was Elise Nardine that did it for a long time. They had these silicon springs they were using, but they weren't using them for hairsprings. They were using them for something else. Either that or replaced it. The guy, I tell you, which would be really cool, and this is something I think Larique would like to do, or at least some members of Larique would like to do, is um, that Colossus, I think it's called. This is Vincent Calabrese, who has a replacement for the hairspring. Instead of a hairspring, it looks like a little hammer going back and forth. Something that reminded me of the Mertz Grossman Hamatic, except their Hamatic, I don't think is a hairspring. I think it's a rotor. And so, that would be now that one would be very interesting. It's worth reading if you haven't read it yet. Read Vincent Calabrese's discussion of his calcis, I think is what he calls it, with his replacement for the hairspring. First of all, understanding how it works is really beautiful. It really is. But the way he talks about it, it's sort of like here's Calabrese out here, and here's everybody else over here. And Calabrese said, I don't know why they all haven't adopted it. I don't know what's wrong with them. He says, everybody knows that his hairspring is better than theirs. And I'm thinking, oh, do they? But that would be an interesting watch to have with one of the calipers. He made a working model of one using a Salida movement, and he simply replaced the Salida standard hairspring with a Calasis one, and got it working. And I thought, man, that might be really interesting. Maybe make a deal with Agenor, and instead of having the Agen pit regulator and the Strawman hairspring, to put in one of these, that would be an interesting watch. So, I mean, there are all kinds of possibilities I think that we could have with that. Yeah, yeah, killer. That's another watch that we're trying to work on, and the thing that Calabrese has is the Nomos swing system. That's a good question, HP. How many of you are familiar with the swing system? I read that thing that Nomos had about their swing system a dozen times. I kept looking at their movement, and I never could figure out what it is or what it does. And I so like they kept going. Well, we got our swing system going. I thought, what is it? Where is it? I'm looking at the thing now. Do any of you know what the swing system does or how it works? Justin, here we go. Justin's gonna talk. How you doing? Are you still loving your pantograph? How would you rank it in your collection? I tell you, I tell you, my collection probably looks like the Communist Party. I like them all the same. They're all very equal. The pantograph, of course, the pantograph is like sort of wearing this interesting show. It has a hebdomadary movement in it, and so it goes on for 8 days, and just going around the old back and forth into the oval. And then I have the FP Journe's Chronomet Souverain. Love it. And all of them, it's like, and again, going back to my little Fabergé Alexi that I just keep loving that watch, even though it was less expensive, less well known. It's got an automatic, which I'm more of a hand wound. It has a solid back, so I can't see the movement, even though I know the movement they took the rotor and made an imperial eagle out of it. Why didn't they put a movement you could see on that? It's 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 one of those ones. All of my watches I have a trouble every morning deciding which one to put on, and I decided to put this one on because it would be the first time I've wore it in a while that I wasn't a full moon. I thought, well, let's see what it's like without a full moon. This is my Parmigiani um, uh, Tondaloon. Love this watch. So when you ask about that, it's like they're all, the lumpen proletariat are all mine. They're all equal. Oh, the Chaumet Dandy. I love those. I I have the Chaumet Dandy, with the patent leather, strap on it, the double Agent A's gears. Love that watch. Now, it's got a big ETA underneath it all, but that's okay because ETA it has is quite a good one. The other thing about it, if, somebody without a lot of money. I mean, you take a look at, I was looking at Calatravas. New Calatravas now are something like $34,000, and even used ones are really expensive. But a dandy that is such a cool, like just the regular ones, here you have this incredible jewelry, high jewelry, making this wonderful watch. Yes, it's got an ETA in it, so it's not going to be great horology. But my God, I'll tell you, I'm so tempted to buy one that I don't need. Probably wouldn't wear it, but it'd be just fun to have because it's just a nice piece of jewelry. I They're such cool watches. Friend of mine has the dual time. God, anybody looking for a dual time of a really classy watch. What is my opinion of Chopek? Oh, Brian, opinion of Chopek. It's good. Let me tell you why. Um, the trying to think what movement they had originally. They had some good, decent movement in. It wasn't one of theirs, but then they developed one, and they were using these finger bridges for the gears, and it was quite a nice watch. It's one of those watches I think that you might be able to pick up that is undervalued. So that's my opinion of Chopek. How about yours, Brian? You like them or just wondering about it? Hey, Justin, for the love of watches. What do I? Oh yeah, this is one. This is one I have on deck. I love this watch among the others. This is a Roger Dubuis Monogasp. Just I mean, if if you're gonna have a watch, you should use it. Let me show you one. This is one that I like, but I'll probably sell because I'm not wearing it. I got this a number of years ago. If anybody wants it, let me know. This is a Mono Rattrapant by Beauvais, and it was from probably the 1940s. They found a box of them, and so it's the thing is in really good shape, and it works. And but it was I just don't wear it, and so I thought, well, I better sell it because it's such a unique watch. All of you know what a retropont is, but a single retropont or a mono retropont is like the sound of one hand clapping. I love this watch, but I don't. But it's one because I'm not. It's a chronograph, and I'm not into chronographs, so I'm going to sell this. But anyone who wants one, let me know. Um, it's a fun watch too. This is a problem that I've got. You know, even if I'm not wearing a watch, I like it so much that I don't want to get rid of it. But you know, I, you ever get to the point, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I know, Brian. Fernando's got these. He has which one? I think he has the dual time one, and that is just yeah. Maybe I tell you another thing about a dual time one. I really like the Van Cleef and Arpels I have by with the double jumping hours on it for a travel watch. But that thing, man, I'll tell you, that's well worth getting mugged for by a sophisticated mugger. Most of them go after a Rolex or Omegas, but the ones who know more will know when to conk you over the head for one. But on the other hand, a dandy, they can admire it, but they're probably not going to mug you for it. Trying to find good quality brands with unique movements that aren't necessarily tied to any of the huge corporations. That's the smart thing to do because the focus is on the movement and not the some of my most favorite watches are that way. I agree. I like the Promenade by Chopek personally. Heard of HP Annadel Dunsman. I think I came across it, but it was one of those ones that I don't remember too well. It's one of those ones, you come across a million of them, and you're not too sure which one, try to remember. I can't remember half this thing. In the middle of, I couldn't remember inertia. It's like, come on, my marbles are slowly falling out my ear. Um, have I gotten mugged? No, not yet. I think I don't know. I think like this guy doesn't have any taste. Let's go mug somebody else. I think that's my protection. It's sort of like a skunk. You got something to ward people off. Either that or they're afraid of my wife. One of the two. I'm not sure which. She's asking 38K for her watches. Who is this HP? Is this are you talking about Moritz Grossman? I have a better travel. It's a Tiffany and Company Stamatica MI 141 only made in 1993. Sounds cool. Will timer. Okay. Oh, Dushman. Okay. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I saw a picture of her and I was surprised, but yes, her watches are very nice HP. Now I remember who it is. Um, yeah, I looked at that and I looked at the watch and it's one of those ones. There's some other people like that French kid, and then who else? There are two guys who live on the border with Switzerland and Germany, and they're either from Germany or Switzerland or both, something like that. Um, Peterman and Badat, those two. A lot of those, yeah, I know of, but I don't know that much. Probably Peterman and Badat and then the guy, the Swiss guy. But Dunzelman, yes, yes, very nice stuff. Very, very nice stuff. Is that I wish they weren't so smart economically, because, oh, hey, how'd you like this? We'll give it to you for 5,000 euro or something like that. But the younger generation is that they apparently must have a business advisor or something. Yeah, HP, exactly. You're exactly right. Or one that was known at one time and is not known anymore. Um, yeah, I agree. Yeah, HP, that's to a T. She's one of the young ones who is too smart for us. She's, she does, I mean, they spend all of this time, they spend a whole year in a watch and so, oh, I'll take 5,000 euro for it. That's not going to happen. So, sort of, they actually do it. I know a lot of people advertise the fact, well, I spent X number of hours, therefore it's worth this much. I don't want to hear that. I don't care about the number of hours. I just care about the quality. If you have a good quality watch, I don't care if you made it, with a sewing machine. It's just good quality is good quality. If it takes you longer, um, that's because of it. On the other hand, maybe somebody who doesn't take as long is simply more talented and can do it fast. I don't know. Oh, you're getting to work. Okay, killer. Take care. Yeah, I gotta take off pretty quick too. Um, I got a little more time. Oh, good. Did you get it? The Luba, that's something Luba. Yeah, that thing is it. See you, killer. Farve Luba. Yeah, yeah. I still have three of them. One broken that I haven't fixed yet, and probably never will. But I got the other two, and they're working. Man, I tell you, they're like sort of turning a rusty bolt, but they work. Um, it just is it's sort of fun to have an affordable one with that they don't make them in India anymore. I think Tata sold them to somebody else, and they may be going back to Switzerland just to keep the name. I don't know. Space One, read about Space One. It's a new micro brand. Let's talk about micro brands for a second. That's about all I got, all the time I got left. A micro brand, if you take someone like Letterman, I think that's not his name, something like that, or Wooten Lannon, or FP Journe, or one of those. They have a very small amount, but nobody calls them a micro brand. Uh, in fact, I did some calculations once, and I figured out that Larique, in terms of numbers, will have produced more watches than Philippe Dufour after we get our next, after we finish half of our next watch. And so it's like, it's not the number, it's the quality. And when does something move from being a micro brand to a member of the top watchmakers? And that's what I was trying to figure out. Bernard Lederer, yeah, he's the guy I was thinking of. Isotope made their own jumping hour complication. Very cool watch. Okay, now here's what you have, HP. If you got a small brand doing that, what does it take to go from being considered a micro brand into being sort of, I guess, sort of a mainstream tip-top kind of watchmaker? That it's like, what's his name? There's one of the guys, the AHCI, the Independent Watchmakers Group. None of those guys are considered micro brands, even though their output is probably less than a lot of micro brands. So it's not on the number of ones. I think the micro brands sort of are seen as sort of group funded, almost fly by night brands that pop up, but some of them then rise out of that sort of that miasma and become something else again. So that was sort of one I was trying to figure out. Hey, Chili Burger. Oh, Chili Badger. I'm sorry. I've been calling you Chili Burger. Shows you where when my head's on lunch. I purchased a nice timepiece from Cincinnati Watch Company. The watchmaker is Jordan Flicken. I've heard of that name, yeah. Yeah, I think, Brian, I think you're right. They're independent watchmakers. Who's the guy? There's a guy who donated a watch to the GPHD contest, More, something like that. His watches are beautiful. He uses Sellita movements, but they're really nice watches. And that's sort of he's considered a micro brand. I don't know, he sells out, his watches sell out. He doesn't have a real limited number. I mean, he doesn't have a huge number, but it's like, I think it's over 1,000, but he keeps selling out. They're really well priced, but they are so well made. And the packages that they come in is unbelievable. He has a little leather case, and then inside that the leather case is inside this thing with a cushion for it. The whole box, the whole presentation is just fantastic. And they're like about $2,000 or something like that. Will that ever become anything more than a micro brand? Because he uses a Sellita. Some of these other brands using Solitas, like IWC and so forth, and using these phony baloney names with it, they'll never be considered a micro brand, even though that they keep it up, they might be. Maybe We were talking about SWATs earlier and Big Trouble. Maybe they'll sort of fall into that. Well, listen, guys, um, I got to take off. Sorry we didn't get our Bollywood dancing in, but what the heck. Thank you all for your ideas and for my memory gaps that keep popping up. Anyway, take care. Have a and we'll see you later.